So we're back down in South London in Honour Oak, climbing One Tree Hill to find the source of the lost river Peck, one of the lost rivers of London, which rises, I believe, on the summit or near the summit of this tree hill, One Tree Hill. One Tree Hill is a place, one of the many, that is connected to the Boudica myth. And it's said that in this version of the local legend, that this is one of the candidates for where Boudica made her final stand against the Romans, I believe in AD 61. Another local legend says that battle took place on Peckham Rye, which is not far from here, and actually there would have been a view of the battle from here. And according to that legend, this is where the locals gathered to anxiously watch the battle unfold, possibly down on Peckham Rye. It's, like I said, it's one of the many, as regular viewers of my channel will know, that myth is connected with Amesbury Banks in Epping Forest. And I think it's believed now the most likely site was somewhere in the Midlands. But there is a more likely story connected with the name of One Tree Hill and connected with its famous oak tree. But we'll pick that up when we get to the summit. And from memory, it's quite a steep climb. I should clarify, when I say the Boudica myth here, I don't mean the suggestion that Boudica was a myth. We know Boudica was a real historical figure who burnt London to the ground. The line of ash is still there. You can see it in the land. Well, you can't really see it that easily, but the marks are still there. No one's doubting the veracity that Boudica existed and that she did what she did. I mean the myths surrounding Boudica, particularly the myths surrounding her death and her final resting place. I know somebody's going to say it's beneath one of the platforms at King's Cross Station, aren't they? I mean, why not? And here we are, the current Oak of Honour that gives its name to Honour Oak and One Tree Hill. I believe the original Oak of Honour was a marker, a boundary marker for the southern boundary of the Honour of Gloucester, a Norman kind of gift of land. The land then, I think, was passed to the abbots of Bermondsey Abbey, which is where our walk will end today, not at the Abbey, but down in Bermondsey. And this, I believe, is the third such tree on this site. It's said that Queen Elizabeth I rested here on May Day 1602 in the shade of the tree on her way to visit Lewisham. Quite why she was visiting Lewisham, I'm not entirely sure. But that story is most likely true. And of course we've been to the top of One Tree Hill before on at least one other walk when we were walking along the Norwood Ridge, which this is part. But just the other side of these trees here is the concrete structure on which the anti-aircraft gun was actually built in 1916 to protect London from Zeppelin raids and Gotha biplanes. It's an incredible thought, isn't it? And there are incredible views through here to the towers of the city of London, the skyline of London. We've got the Shard there and the city towers. It's kind of incredible. It's a bit misty today, but it shows you all the places you can see. The London Eye, BT Tower, St Paul's Cathedral, Guy's Hospital, the Shard, Rye Hill Estate, the Gherkin. Someone's written Babylon. This is a kind of modern beacon that's been erected to mark the fact that this was a site where beacon fires were to be lit in the case of an invasion, a French invasion during the Napoleonic Wars. And it's also from where the East India Company would look out for their ships. And they had a semaphore station based on the top of this hill. So the Peck rises somewhere here on this hill. It actually runs underground for nearly the entire duration of this walk. So we're going to actually retrace our steps down to the bottom of One Tree Hill. You'll have noticed back there the signs for the Green Chain Walk. It's an interesting series of walks around South London. I followed part of one up to Boston Woods and down through Thamesmead. It's a really good walk to do. As I always say when I do these walks, I love river hunting. I really love river hunting. And this actually today is going to be a particular case of river hunting because I don't have particularly detailed kind of route information at all. I have a course for the river from the Peckham Society website, but that's all I have. So it's going to be a little bit of our classic kind of river hunting reading of the landscape, although bearing in mind that this runs through a culvert that could be quite deep in the ground. And this is a very hilly area around here. There's lots of river valleys. You've got the Ravensbourne and the Pool on the other side of the hill there. And it's a really fascinating landscape. We're on the Norwood Ridge. So I don't really know, is what I'm saying, is where the river is running through here, through Brenchley Gardens. We're going to have to go where we can go, because we know, according to the Peckham Society instructions, the river runs through a culvert near a girls' school on the edge of Peckham Rye, and then it will be above ground, or some sort of course of it will be above ground on Peckham Rye, which is really exciting. I'm going to take this path here. I don't know where it's taking me or whether I'm going to be going on a wild goose chase. The Peck is a tributary of the Earl's Sluice, and that's where our walk will hopefully end today. I'm saying it'll end there, I mean, who knows? That's where we're aiming for anyway. And the Earl's Sluice itself is a tributary of the River Thames. I suppose here the Peck is part of the river system that includes the Neckinger, because part of the Neckinger does branch off and become the Earl's Sluice, I believe, or conjoins with the Earl's Sluice at one point. And the other branch, of course, leads down to the Thames, and we did that walk, when was it? It was December 2020. So it's good to put the pieces of a kind of river system together. I suppose one day I'll have to walk the whole of the Earl's Sluice as well to make that a kind of triple bill of lost rivers. We've got Camberwell Old Cemetery there on the other side of the road. And we're in a zone of cemeteries here. You've got Camberwell New Cemetery and Nunhead Cemetery, one of the Magnificent Seven. We're going to go down Marmora Road here. Got to do a little bit of kind of going around the houses, as you often do on Lost Rivers walks, where the rivers are running beneath the ground, and in this case looks to have been built over. But let's look for the point where we think it's running beneath the street between the houses at the end of this road here. You can see, look, there's a definite low point in this road here where that Sainsbury's van is very helpfully lit up. The exact spot with its orange van. So we know the river runs along Homestall Road, further along where the Harris Girls Academy is. But I think there's a candidate for saying the river is running across here towards Homestall Road, running sort of left to right across the screen there. I think it's a distinct possibility anyway. It's certainly not up on Marmora Road, where I was walking along there. I'd say it's down here somewhere. I don't know if it's going to come out in the audio, but there's definitely a lot of green parakeet action around here for sure. Lots of them chirping away like mad. Street names are really something around here. Look, this is Therapia Road, and then just over here we're walking along Scutari Road. Scutari Road, look at that. Scutari Road. We're going to try and find the lowest point in the land here, which is down here somewhere. Mundania Road. Great stuff, eh? So I've returned to Homestall Road here. I think this is, well, we know the Peckham Society anyway say that the culvert comes out by the school at the end of Homestall Road. So safest thing to assume is to walk along Homestall Road. We have a golf course on the other side there as well, so the river could be running through the golf course. Let's go along this little path here. It was quite a spontaneous decision to decide to do this walk today. I was coming down here on other business, shall we say, and I thought, oh, there's got to be some good walks around there, which is when I saw the Peck running across Peckham Rye. I don't know if I've ever been at Peckham Rye. Some of you are going to be really shocked by that. You'd be even more shocked if you knew that for 6 months I lived not that far away on Telegraph Hill. That's quite some years ago now. So the Harris Girls Academy here in East Dulwich is where the river flows in a culvert beneath the school here, and it crosses this road here. And I think very soon we'll see the Peck running above the ground through Peckham Rye recreation ground. Oh look, here it is here. And here is the Peck running free above ground as it flows through Peckham Rye. Isn't that beautiful? I wonder if this is an example of daylighting or whether it was always above the ground here. Either way, it's really wonderful. It's very rare when you're doing a Lost River walk to actually see the river officially above ground. Occasionally there are bits where it runs above ground through an allotment or something. I'm thinking of the Phillybrook in Leytonstone, but this, where it's actually running through above ground, free across the Peckham Rye, is fantastic. We're going to follow this path here across Peckham Rye, shadowing the Peck the whole way, hopefully. It's so wonderful to be this close to a little river running through London, the Peck. So whereas a number of London rivers' names associated with places are said to be back formations, like the Wandle takes its name from Wandsworth, the Ching takes its name from Chingford, the Peck is said to give its name to Peckham. I think it's Peckham's Anglo-Saxon for the village at the Peck, the River Peck. So there you go. I may have to get my feet wet to navigate this next little section. I'm not entirely sure I'm supposed to walk along the river here, but let's give it a go, shall we? I wonder if this pond here is drawing water from the Peck, which is running adjacent to it. Lovely little stone bridge here, which is a fitting tribute to this little river. Peckham Rye is famous for its association with William Blake. It's said that this is where he had his first vision when he was but 8 years old, and he saw a tree filled with angels, which is an interesting vision. It's also, like I said, when I was at the top of One Tree Hill, there is a little local legend that says that this is where Boudica made her final stand against the Romans. We know that's most likely not true, but it's an interesting idea. I suppose it's because there are quite strong Roman associations with this area due to the old Kent Road. And Watling Street runs not far away. I imagine as well, this common here, this grazing land, would have been vast. As once the great forest of Kent certainly took in the top of One Tree Hill. That's like one of the remnants of the great forest of Kent. And up until, I don't know when it would have ended, I suppose the 19th century, you'd have had the Kentish drovers would have brought their cattle through this area along drovers' roads, and they would have grazed them here on Peckham Rye before taking them up to market to be sold. Another bridge? There certainly are. Probably more bridges across the Peck and Peckham Rye than there are across the Thames within the tidal section of London. For a moment I thought I'd lost the river, but here it is, running beside a car park. I don't think we have the river directly with us for much longer. We've got another lovely stone bridge up here. I think this may well be our final view of the Peck, because it runs into this little algae covered pond here, and then we can see the road there on the north side of Peckham Rye, and that's the direction which we'll be heading up towards Bermondsey and then on towards the Thames. So the river does appear to be heading towards the road there, and we know it turns north and runs through Peckham. It runs west of Copeland Road and then on towards Queen's Road. So it's running in a northeasterly direction there towards Bermondsey. So I think at this point we could be forgiven for just walking along the edge of Peckham Rye rather than walking along the road. Interesting carved wooden statue here that I imagine was carved out the remains of an old tree. It's really interesting. I have no idea what it means. I want to read into it and say it's to do with the Kentish drovers or something, but I've got to be honest, I can't really guess what's going on here. We're going to carry on going north towards Peckham. Peckham Rye Common. I have to imagine the herds of Kentish beef grazing themselves fat out here. Completely wild speculation, but I suspect the river could be running beneath that strip of green over there, because we know it runs west of Copeland Road, which is at the end. It's difficult to see where else it might be flowing. I suppose it could be flowing behind those shops. So the Peck is running somewhere across this kind of green here, because that's Copeland Road there. It runs west of Copeland Road, which must be here somewhere, but then it goes towards Queen's Road and Asylum Road, which is northeast, so it must be running through here and then crossing Copeland Road. So what we'll do is we'll go along Copeland Road and try and find the point where we think it crosses. Peckham Rye Lane is just the other side of Copeland Road. It runs parallel, so the Peck is running between the two. There's a new build behind me here. But interestingly, I was actually sent to Peckham Rye Lane by the United Nations. Yeah, the UN sent me to Peckham Rye Lane to document it on video for a film that was being made to support a thesis about the future of cities called The Open City. I'll post a link to the finished film below. It's interesting, isn't it? And the reason they sent me there, and this is expanded upon in my follow-up book to This Other London, which is currently with a publisher at the moment who are considering it. There had been an anthropological report produced by the London School of Economics about the mixture of economies and stuff there. And yes, that's what I had to go down and capture on film. It's an interesting area. We won't be going through many of the notable places around Rye Lane, because that's, like I said, it's over there. So maybe I'll cover that in another video, perhaps when the book is published. Maybe be good, wouldn't it? I'm trying to find the point where I think the river cuts across. And to be honest with you, there's not a lot here in Copeland Road that indicates where the river might be flowing. I might have to just do it purely by seeing where it lines up on the map. I'd say this was a decent candidate here. Got a bus garage, industrial lands, no housing built here. It's heading in roughly the right direction, so I'm going to take this road here with Blackpool Road. This is actually a very sort of notable location. This is Peckham Bus Garage, bus spotter's paradise. I'm going to continue along Brayards Road. I don't think this is the course of the river. I think the river is to my left here on lower ground, but this is the most direct route towards Asylum Road. We're going to pick up the course, I think, around the corner. We'll turn the left anyway. We'll turn into Kirkwood Road, and I think the Peck is cutting across the bottom of this road. I can see a definite dip in the land. My best guess is that the Peck is running through here beside these flats, and then either goes beneath the railway bridge here or through that little nature reserve there. I would go that way, but I think it's a bit of a dead end. I think I'm going to have to go around the block to pick up the course at Queen's Road. Such is the nature of urban river walking. It's interesting, the interpretation board there for Kirkwood Nature Reserve doesn't mention the Peck. I mean, there is a pond there, but I don't know if that's anything to do with the Peck. So you think it would have done. It mentions that it was farmland. So it might be something to pick up at home. It's a bit of, look at that graffiti, sort of Banksy-inspired graffiti, or is it going to turn out that this is in fact an obscure Banksy here? What's interesting is that Nicholas Barton in the classic Lost Rivers of London book, or is it London's Lost Rivers? Anyway, either way, the classic book, the Peck gets one mention as being a river that feeds the Earl's Sluice. It's a little, basically 2 paragraphs about the Earl's Sluice, and he mentions the Peck as a feeder river. It is quite a small river, let's be honest. By the way, I'm going now down Lugard Road, which is an interesting name. So I don't know whether it is a sort of slightly overlooked lost river. I'm sure Tom Bolton must write about it in his Barton-inspired guidebooks, of which there are 2 volumes. You can see me and Tom walking along the Black Ditch, a video that we recorded, I'm going to say 2019. It must have been, mustn't it? Queen's Road, Peckham here. We're going to pick up Asylum Road. So I think the river must be running beneath this bridge here, because it runs along Asylum Road there, just on the other side, to the right of the bridge. So it's running across the frame. A reminder that the London to Brighton pub was once here. Picture there of the Brighton Pavilion, I guess. It was this site here, which is now these flats and shops, or it could be that plot of wasteland beside it. And the Peckham Society note, so it runs along Asylum Road here, which is the way that we shall go. What a beautiful green tree-lined road here. Asylum Road. I mean, I'm, you know, really sticking my neck out to say there must have been some sort of, I'd say, Victorian asylum here at some point. Let's see if we can see the remains. The Asylum Tavern. Anyone had a drink in there? Anyone know what it's like? Probably a good place to watch England matches, I reckon. And confirmation, if it were needed, in the presence of this stink pipe here. And of course there's a note that the river became part of the London sewer system, and these stink pipes release the gases from the sewers. So the sewer must be beneath the ground here, and hence the river, the Peck, is running beneath the ground here. Always good to get confirmation. Quite grand buildings along Asylum Road. And I think just up here, to the right of that building, we might have the old asylum. That'd be my guess. Let's go have a look. So these must be the old asylum gates. 1827 to 1927, that was obviously some sort of centenary. And look down there, you can see the old grand facade of the, what I assume was the asylum. Could be completely barking up the wrong tree, but a bit of a coincidence, wouldn't it, to have a beautiful old Victorian building like this on Asylum Road and it not be an asylum. Could be almshouses by the looks of it, but something of that ilk. So we come out onto the ancient trackway of the old Kent Road, an ancient path. We don't know how old it is, but we know it was improved and paved by the Romans. The Anglo-Saxons gave them its name. They called it Watling Street, and now we call it the Old Kent Road, which became the Drovers Road. But it may have started life as an animal trackway. I walked some sections of Watling Street with the great Iain Sinclair and Andrew Kötting for a film we were making about Watling Street. I walked along Watling Street, and I believe it runs from Dover. I think it finishes in Anglesey. I think it runs right across the country. And there's a book by John Higgs about Watling Street, and yeah, he says it could have predate even continuous human occupation of the island. It could be an old animal track across the country. That's an amazing idea, isn't it? So the river is crossing the Old Kent Road here, and then it's going to take another road, Ilderton Road, up to its confluence with the Earl's Sluice. So the Peck must be flowing through this park here, Bremerton Park. That would line up with Asylum Road on the other side, and it's crossing the Old Kent Road here and going along Ilderton Road towards its confluence with the Earl's Sluice. So we turn into Ilderton Road next to the Afrikiko Bar, Restaurant and Nightclub. And this is the final stretch of the Peck as it heads towards its confluence with the Earl's Sluice just up ahead, just as the rain's coming down quite hard. I like to imagine that the curve in this road is following the contours of the river. What's more likely is that it's running beneath this strip of grass here to my left, but you never know. I mean, to be honest with you, it's all likely buried river territory here. So I saw the sign for the Wheel Shunters Club and realised that I'd walked down that road there and round this corner with Iain, Sinclair and Andrew Kötting for the London Overground film. The first walk that we filmed. What a great day that was. You wouldn't expect to find a street like that relatively close to central London. We're not that far away from the Thames. The Ilderton Cafe, breakfast, snacks and lunch. Looks like they're Millwall fans here. Of course, we're in Millwall territory, aren't we? We've got Surrey Canal Road there, branching off to the right. That's a walk I intend to do one day, the Surrey Canal. You probably can't see, but behind it you've got the top of the new Den, Millwall's ground. So that over there is the territory of the London Overground walk that I did. Sadly, up here we have some forensics officers at work in the undergrowth there, which is usually a very bad sign. Our walk continues a bit longer down Ilderton Road. You can see some rough ground on the right. Over there is South Bermondsey Station, which is where the Peck makes its confluence with the Earl's Sluice. Something really gratifying about crossing paths with former walks. And now at 2 points here, I've crossed over with walks I've done with Iain, Sinclair and Andrew Kötting. One was the first walk for London Overground, which was parallel. We passed parallel to where I am now and crossed the Old Kent Road. And then of course there was the Watling Street walk that we did along the Old Kent Road. Very lovely when you start to put the pieces together, but in both cases the Peck didn't get a mention. The Peck was not on our radar. We were following other things, the railway and the road, Watling Street. So it's interesting, isn't it, how your focus gets drawn in one direction and you miss so many other things. So here we have South Bermondsey Station, just on the other side of the road here, which is where the Peck makes its confluence with the Earl's Sluice. And then conjoined, they make their journey on to the Thames. But this is where our walk along the Peck must conclude today, here in Ilderton Road. What a very fascinating, illuminating walk it's been. Well, that was a fascinating walk for me, crossing paths with the old London Overground and Watling Street walks, and going through a lot of terrain that I didn't know really at all. I'm embarrassed to say how unfamiliar I am with Peckham Rye Common, but to see the Peck there flowing through the grounds was just really marvellous and wonderful. So thank you so much for joining me on another Lost Rivers of London walk. I feel like we have to do the Earl's Sluice now sometime to kind of put it together with the Neckinger and the Peck to create that kind of classic triple bill of Lost Rivers walks. Anyhow, you have a great week. Take care, stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next walk, wherever that may be. And who knows where it'll be. I mean, look, the Peck wasn't even on my list. I've got a very long list of walks. The Peck isn't on it. So who knows where we'll be next time.